Good afternoon, I'm Spencer.
That's Woody. Say hi.
I'm going to talk about the 3 super simple, super effective rigs I use for flathead catfish 90% of the time. So the first rig, the rig that I use almost exclusively during the day, with the exception of the third one I'm going to show you, is a little different than what a lot of people are probably doing. I naturally gravitate toward things that are a little different because most people classify me as a little different, which I guess I get where they're coming from. Anyway, so what makes this first rig different? Well, it's not that much different. What you have is a 3-way crane swivel, and this prevents your sinker from sliding. Now, growing up, everything you read about, a slip sinker rig was the way to go for catfishing. And it's still an excellent rig, and I still use it pretty regularly, but for daytime catfishing, more specifically daytime flathead catfishing, it's close to cover, and usually dense wood cover. I want a short leader. Now, you can have a slip sinker rig, and this rig has a short leader. It's got like an 8 to 10 inch leader. But with a slip sinker, when you cast, lots of times that sinker slides up your main line. And when it slides up your main line, your 8 to 10 inch leader is now a 3-foot leader or 5-foot leader. The longer the leader, the more snags you get. With this, I tied an 8-inch leader. No matter what, it's going to stay an 8-inch leader, and it drastically reduces the amount of times I snag and have to retie. So, 3-way crane swivel, I'll link it in the description below if you want to go nab you some. Next part, clip. No matter what, I like to have a clip because I like to be able to change my sinker size quickly. If I want a light sinker because I want this rig to drift near a piece of cover, I can put on a light sinker. If I want to put on a heavy sinker because I want to place it directly in cover and I don't want it to move around, no problem, just unclip it and change the sinker. Works awesome, and I haven't found it. This is the best system I've found. Leader length during the day for flatheads, got to be short. There's nothing wrong with using a 4 to 6 inch leader. This is 8 to 10 inches, which is probably what I use most of the time. Next part, I use 85-pound whisker seeker braided line as my main line for all of my flathead catfishing. Leader, 50 pound mono. This guy right here, it's a rattle. More specifically, a Versa rattle. Whisker seeker makes them. They're pretty nifty. The current hits these, makes them spin. They rattle, draw attention, and I'm always looking for something to give me a little extra edge to catch a few more fish. 2 out of my 3 biggest flatheads this year came on rigs using Versa rattles. The main purpose of these beads, between the hook and the Versa rattle, is cushion, is space. I don't want this Versa rattle to get in the way of the hook, because I want that hook point to be unobstructive and go straight into the corner of the mouth of the fish. For hooks, this is an 8/0 Whisker Seeker Super J. Love these things. They are ridiculously sharp and they stay sharp. 8/0 is about the best all-around size for the majority of flathead fishing, and that's because it's a great hook for bluegills and mid-sized bullheads, which is the bait that I use and can get the majority of the time. If I get into some giant baits, I always have a supply of 10/0s. The 10/0 is a machine compared to the 8/0, and I save it for those extra special occasions. The reason I use J hooks is because, for flatheads, is because lots of times they take the bait and they just don't move. Or they'll pull the rod down a little bit and they won't move. This is really frustrating. With circle hooks, yeah, you can reel down on them, but lots of times that leads to a poor hook set and fish loss. Now, there's no perfect hook, but this is my favorite because I can treat this like a circle hook. You don't have to set the hook like crazy with a J hook. I just reel down on the fish until I feel weight, and I abruptly lift, similar to how a lot of people fish a circle hook. Now, before I move on to the next rig, if you were looking at me and you're like, "Wow, Spencer, that shirt you got's pretty sweet," I would have to agree with you. If you want to get one, which I think you should, click on the icon in the top corner of the video, and then I'll take you to the website. There's t-shirts, there's dry fit long sleeve shirts like this one, sweatshirts. It's just one more step to becoming river certified. Anyway, on to the second rig. Let's say you're camping. So you fish all day, then you want to fish all night. That's like 24 hours of fishing. That's awesome. So my other rig that I use at nighttime a lot requires no retying whatsoever. This thing is a Whisker Seeker sinker slide. And I'm not going to take the time to show you how it works right now. I'll link the video in the description, and check the corner right about now. And that video will show you how to use a Whisker Seeker sinker slide. So this guy is what allows this rig to be changed without any retying. So first thing I do with rig number 1, take the sinker off. Sinker's off. Next thing I do, I take this clip off. Clip's off. Ta-da. Next thing I do, on the main line, I put the Whisker Seeker sinker slide on. Take the sinker that I took off, put it on the new clip. Ta-da. Have a sliding rig. Sliding rig. Everything I need. If you're like, well, that swivel looks kind of junky, I guess you can retie if you want. This could potentially catch more debris as it floats downriver, sure. But almost all catfish rigs are pretty bulky and are going to catch a bunch of debris. So it's totally your call. I haven't found it made that much of a difference. One disclaimer, check your knots before you do this, because sometimes it's a good thing to retie. And if you're ever not sure about your knot strength, like this rig's been in and out of a bunch of logs all day and you haven't had to retie it from a bust off, it's probably a good idea to retie anyway. Why do I want a sliding sinker at night? My bait, imagine, my bait on this hook, tugging, tugging, tugging. On a fixed sinker rig, he tugs and has solid resistance against that sinker. What happens lots of times is the fish pops off the hook. And then you're sitting there and you have rods out without bait on it. And then you're not catching fish. That sucks. What the sliding sinker allows, as a fish pulls against, it has some give. Back and forth, and it's playing against more so the bend in the line as well as the tip of the rod, and that give prevents the fish from tearing off the hook. And you know, the longer you have baits in the water, the more fish you're going to catch. Rig number 3, if you need to get down in some super thick cover, this is where it's at. This rig right here, it was first introduced to me reading Channel Catfish Fever, which is a book written by Doug Stange, Otis Smith, and Steve Quinn, in Fisherman Dudes, the guys who started my addiction. Well, they didn't start my addiction to catfishing, but they definitely fueled it. 2 to 8 ounce egg sinker. This generally gets the job done. A bead, and you tie your hook on. Another great feature would be to put a bobber stop up above here to prevent your sinker from sliding. And what this does is it essentially turns a catfish rig into a jig head. And this is super duper weedless, I guess snag free, and this is a great rig for dropping it straight down into a brush pile. Lots of times that's where that big boy's at. So the bummer part about it, why I prefer the other rig, is if you do get snagged, you lose your hook and your sinker, and sinker prices do add up. Nothing would make me happier than if you use the rigs and information that I just showed you to go out and catch yourself the biggest catfish you've ever caught in your life. That would make me absolutely ecstatic. If you found that information helpful and you want to see some more, hit the subscribe button. If you want other people to know you're river certified, go get you one of these t-shirts. Links in the description. If you want to know every piece of tackle I'm using, those links are in the description too. Go catch you a giant. Thanks for watching.